Hello and welcome to the World Poetry Cafe Adult Tent. My name is Chris Warren and I've written poems since I was a teenager at school all the way through my life. And it's a way of expressing some of the things that can't be written in any other way. Personally, I've also found poems the perfect thing for big occasions. I like writing poems for special events and special people. I'd now like to play you a poem I wrote in homage to Samuel Taylor Coleridge's famous poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. My version is a science fiction version, and it imagines the ship is now a spaceship and the crew get marooned in another time dimension. It's been illustrated by Sophie Cheshire, and I've arranged it as a kind of slideshow. So you're going to lose my face for a moment, and then you're going to see this slideshow with my poem running behind it. I hope you enjoy it.
I find the building tall and dark, the moon behind it bright. The Transcom trains slip whispering past on rails of laser light. I find the man I'm searching for, the Minister for Law. He's laughing, talking, making jokes along a corridor. I watch him as he smiles and grins, so smug, so satisfied. Yet had this man refused to sign with curly scrawl on dotted line, 1,000 had not died. I stop him in his corridor. I stop him with my eyes. He tries to turn but cannot move, trance-captured by surprise. I hold him with my stunner. I spin the dial to 5. His mouth moves, but he cannot speak. He's trance-trapped, dead alive. I turn the dial to 56. His face turns ashen grey. I twist the dial to 90. There was a ship, I say. The fuel aboard, the gantry stored. Our ship stood set for flight. And countdown done, like shot from gun, we sped into the night. Rocket blast, the earth whizzed past, 6G in the climb. Like sequins sun-sprinkled we flashed and spun, twinkled, out through the gates of time. Then strange blue lights displaced the dark. The ship began to fall. The centuries went floating past, and all the while their shadows cast like flame light on a wall. And when we stopped, we were marooned, trapped in a world gone by. 6 moons around a purple orb, green whales in yellow sky. Then all the crew for certain knew that rescue would not come. No waters blue, no fountain true, the instruments quite dumb. For we were on a prison ship, and you had smashed the keys. You shot us through the universe like symbols of disease. Yet on that craft, sweet children laughed. Sad women sang sad tunes. Here were no crimes, just lonely times beneath those alien moons. You said we were a danger, to the earth a stranger, a cancer, a carrier, a blight. You gave the fatal order, the calm judicial murder, these one-way tickets for the flight. His eyes are bulged and bloodshot. They stare up like a frog's. I watch his tongue hang through his lips, red lolling like a dog's. You sent us to extinction. You would have killed us all. But one of us survived to lay the burden on your soul. That one is me. Yes, I came back. His eyes look strange and pale. I have a furnace in my heart, and I must tell my tale. Yes, I was picked, flattered and tricked. You promised huge rewards to steer a ship, a simple trip with VIPs on board. Nor did I know we were to go on a flight with no return. You overruled me, bamboozled, fooled me. A cruel lesson to learn, for I was he eternally who'd carry the better pain. Inspired by greed, I did the deed, the death of 1,000 men. All there knew I'd been untrue. I was the evil eye, like Jonah there. I brought despair, and best if I should die. Their anger grew as on we flew, effectively entombed. And what was worse, I felt their curse, though I was also doomed. Yes, I had sinned, while you still grinned, rid of dissenters and glad. You free of cares, we in nightmares, tumbled, broken and sad. The stunner holds him trance entrapped. He cannot run or fly. My mind goes back to bitter times. My tale once more I try. Slow sift, silent drift, stars in myriad shine. Ship morgue dead as on we sped, through space all splashed with blood, spot red like casks of spilt dark wine. And then through the cold, unthinkably old, a giant craft came near. It sensed our plight with feelers of light, a mantis hunting prey at night with claws of pain and fear. And we were locked in webs of beams, trust, blindfolded, dumb, golden schemes, cherished dreams, happy themes, exhaled in screams, gone where nightmares come. A spider wasp had chosen us, picked us to feed its young, laid silver eggs in the cargo bay, then turned to us as future prey. We are licked with toxic tongue. We are cocooned, helpless, marooned, mummified alive, towed into space to an alien place, moored by an ancient hive. I pray for death with every breath, while decades come so slow. I still can see, can hear, can feel, that nothing more seems true or real, and still my life won't go. Alone, alone, doomed and alone, straitjackets of poisoned slime. The agony we suffered there, the pain through countless time, and where the eggs begin to hatch, the terror within did feel. The wasp grubs crawled so hungrily, and we their destined meal. Like huge black worms with open mouths, they slithered, slid, squealed, burst through the walls like soft old cheese, cracked open tough as steel. And now we feared the million teeth, bared to eat their fill. Paralyzed, we could not scream, locked in this nightmarish stream, helpless before their will. A look of dread has filled his eyes. I watch him, satisfied. He twitches, desperate to escape. I will not be denied. The worms were here. The worms were there. The worms were all around. They called and squealed and screamed and howled. It was a dreadful sound. A million slimy worms, a million spark blue eyes, a billion needle-pointed teeth that rise and fall and rise. The worms began with Captain Strange. They licked her clean of slime, then ate her in a savage feast, like game devoured by a monstrous beast, a seething heap of crime. And when they'd done their worst with her, 10,000 worms broke free. They lifted, sniffing, ugly snouts, smelt the terror in my doubts, and they turned their eyes on me. I screamed and screamed, but could not scream. I felt hot licking tongues. I tried to yell, but felt the burn steel hoops around my lungs. Yes, you had done a hellish thing when first you made us go. Round my face the slimy worms' soft tongues licked to and fro. Soft tongues licked to and fro. I swoon, half mad with fright, my mind adrift on storms of pain, my consciousness down sunk again, a shipwreck lost at night. I thought, I must be dying now. The worms are eating me. But when I woke I heard a song, an angel harmony. My limbs that had been locked in chains now felt so light and free that all my being sang for joy, exquisite ecstasy. My eyes had lost their crust of slime, and I could clearly see an empty ship, a silent deck, and none alive but me. As zip lights flickered in the gloom, I saw my strange reflection. My human flesh had suffered change, a hairless dog with dreadful mange, as if from vile infection. My eyes, that once were young and moist, were lizard-like and cold. My skin had darkened with the years, green and ages old. For while I pined, cocooned in slime, myself had slowly changed. Eons spent suspended there had left me half deranged. My mind that once knew love and joy has dried through endless hours. I dream strange dreams. I think strange thoughts, and find I have strange powers. At my feet the worms lay dead, like heaps of twisted wire, and on the floor were piles of dust, ground up bones and heaps of rust, like ashes from a fire. The prisoners had passed away, consumed and turned to powder. The ship, abandoned, floated on, her only purpose finally gone, the sad dead stars around her. I knelt and prayed, I wept and prayed, I begged for one more chance. The ship, unheeding, hurtled on, where sad dead stars still dance. And when at last my prayers were spent, my aching heart wrung dry, a purple dawn rose on the right, and on the left 2 suns spat light across a scarlet sky, and black and green and red and blue convulsed across all space. The cosmic storms about me blew. It was an act of grace, for all at once the gates of time swung wide and let me through. I came to earth a chastened man, to seek the reason this began, and now I've tracked down you. I've been away 1,000 years. To you it seems like one. I've aged and aged through centuries, and though I've changed by slow degrees, I still appear quite young. He wriggles like a gasping fish, hooked and gaffed and netted. I twist the dial to 0 now, my violence regretted. I leave the building. It is night. The moon has risen high. The Transcom trains, like silver snakes in hissing tracks of golden flakes, uncoil across the sky.
I'm going to read you a selection now from the poems I've written over the years. And in particular, I'd like to start with some poems written in recollection of my childhood, which was spent in Uganda in Africa. It was a wonderful time. I lived there. I was born there in Kampala and lived there till I was 9 years old. Most of the poems in this collection are written from a time when I was about 5 through to when I was about 9. So the first one I'm going to read is about a little bird that was given to me as a present. It's called Dove. I am 5. They bring me a gift, a bird on a string. Thin dove, soft neck, ring of dark colour, soot green glossed with pearl. Their eyes search my face, looking for excitement or joy. I clutch my mother's skirts. Flick the leash and watch the sport. A run of feathers till the dove hits the tether end and crashes to the ground. The village boys show me how it's done, and then they go. We leave it on the grass behind the garages. It does not move. A drop of blood on yellow, dry grass. We watch at a distance. Its string is off, so why doesn't it fly? Stillness and a haze over the escarpment. The water tank round with whitewashed shadow. The tin roof distorting air to hot visions. An empty squeal of a kite high in the afternoon. Then the dove's wild eye catches the call, the song of the shining cloud, the round white shadows, the steep tanks of heaven, the skybox of blue visions, the chanting angels of air, and a whistle of wind, whooping, 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 whooping. And it's gone. A dot in the vast African sky, a speck in an ocean of blue, high in the afternoon. This next poem is called Crater Walk. We lived in an outstation in Africa, and my father was in charge of the Queen Elizabeth National Park. We were a long way from anywhere else, and we had a childhood that was sort of insular. My older sister, Margaret, and I used to find our own entertainments. This one is called Crater Walk, and when I remember what we did, I'm thinking in terms of horror, really. If my children had done that, I would have been terrified that they would have survived the experience. Crater Walk. I am following Margaret. The afternoon is hot. She's the bold explorer, and I am not. Through the elephant grass we go down to the crater's rim. Below us, sheer cliff, to a jungle where the leopards live. Margaret goes on, finds the perimeter path. A single mistake, a drop to certain death. I am following Margaret. Where she leads, I go. If she says, "Come on," I don't say no. The path is beaten earth, made by man and beast. It circles the crater edge. Suddenly, a 2-foot gap appears. A blank space, no track. Margaret takes it in her stride. She does not look back. At the last moment I see it too. Struggle to make the leap. Even at 5 I know it's a narrow escape. Margaret marches on. Brave confidence is hers. She won't be responsible if anything bad occurs. But I am following Margaret. The afternoon is hot. She's the bold explorer, and I am not. We were living in this outstation near the national park. We had a visitor from the UK, from an auntie. This poem tells you about the visit. We're going for a walk with Auntie Joan. She's just arrived today. Hold my hand, my dears. And off we go. Down the track past Mauru's, the path Gotama takes, past the edge of the crater, where the path leads to the Borgia region open to the park. We know instinctively that this is far enough. We feel the vulnerability. But Auntie Joan's oblivious. She proudly marches on. We hang back now, afraid. Beyond her we can see the horned heads of buffalo. They look up, stare, with hostile curiosity at her approach. Auntie Joan knows better. She marches on ahead of us and won't divert. But this isn't an English farm. We're not plodding around fat cows. Finally, common sense prevails. I remember doubting her judgment, though I was barely 6. I remember that me and Margaret were wiser than this aunt, dropped in from another world. I wrote the next poem, Salmon, that's salmon with a P on the front, salmon. I wrote it for someone, a friend of mine, who had terminal cancer. Salmon. I have streamed where blue under runnels bleed, in cold muscle of current and tight weave of sea. I have flashed under quiet moons, danced on silver slippers to salt water tunes, and I have swum where rivers are like stairs, and beaten the steeps and climbed the air. And I have floated in soft eddies, glass clear greens, where weeds hardly stir and oxygen is pure. And I have driven, frantic and violent, up the dark to the top, fighting, thrashing, bruising for life, through cascade, through torrent, through black despair, to the still pool, its own little sky, dim under trees, spawn silver soft, all willow shiver and tenderness, where swan down drifts on a tiny breath. And this peace is where I am. No onward journey. Watching the tiniest eddy with a huge, light-hungry eye. Simply glad to be I. I wrote a series of poems in a similar vein, taking a word and twisting it to make the title, by adding a letter. The next poem I'm going to read you is called Nativity, and it's about a cloud of gnats that witness the birth of Christ. We were there, a choir of millions, rising, falling, whining, humming, adding high notes, thin notes, inaudible notes to the celestial crescendo. The twilight fields above the quiet town, dank, just right. And after the show of light, we followed the men downhill to the cave mouth, drawn by the smells of birth, the fragrance of exhaled breath, animal heat, and groans of camels, coming and going, but unanimous in worship, a numinous cloud in candlelight. We wind like a ghost of incense around the Father's beard. We caress the infant limbs, ecstatic. We adore the child's face. We kiss the tiny feet. We coil in love about the mother's agitating arms. Well, that's all from me, from Chris Warren. If you fancy putting something in the little pot as you leave, I'd be very much appreciative. And thank you very much for visiting the World Poetry Cafe. Keep safe, keep well. Go on reading poetry, go on enjoying it, go on writing it. Above all, keep writing. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.